In this video, we are going to talk about creating an object by different means. And first, let's talk about when we need a, let's say we are building a quiz application and we have a lot of users. And let's say we have user 1, user 2, user 3, and they have some functionalities added to them. They might have their score, they might have some functions added to them. So what would be the best way to store this data? The best way to store this data is by creating an object. So how do we create an object is by, let's create a user one by storing some properties in it. I would say const user one is equal to, and this would have some name property to it. This would be fill, this would be score property of 4, and I would add a function or method to it as well. So I want to add increment method to it. I would say that it would increase the user one score to by 1. Okay, user one dot score by plus plus. If I go to my console.log, I type in type of user one. This would give me that it is an object. Now I can access this property by saying user one dot name, and this is fill, and now I can say that user one dot score, it was before. And now for increment function to work or method to work, I would say user one dot increment. And now if I run, so what it would do is increment the score by 1, and now the score would change to 5. Okay, so now the score is 5. Okay, so now create another object by creating an empty object. Okay, the properties of user2 by dot notation. I would say user2 dot name to be set, user2 dot score to be 5. Okay, and user2 dot increment method is equal to a function that would increase the user2 dot score by 1. This would do the same, but this time I was doing or adding the properties by dot notation. I can check it by saying user2 dot name, so this is saying user is not defined. This would be user2. Okay, if I run this again, it's saying the name is set. Okay, let's create another user. That would be user 3, and for this I would create it by saying object.create, and I would pass in null to it, and I would do the same for user 3 as well. I would change it to user 3, user 3, user 3, and this would be early, and the score would be 6, and this would increase the score by user 3 for user 3. And I can check it as well by saying user 3 dot score. So it is 6. So what we are doing is so let's say we have hundreds of users or a bunch of users, so we don't have to write these lines of code for every user. Okay, so we have to think of a generic solution. Because we are repeating ourselves, the first principle comes is DRY. Do not repeat yourself. Whenever we are repeating ourselves, we have to think of a solution that makes our code flexible, that makes it generic. Okay, so what we can do is think create a function of user creator name, and I would take in 2 arguments of name and the score, and I would create a user inside it. This would be new user with an empty object. And what I would do is, in this new user, I would take any value that is passed in as an argument over here. Okay, so I would do is new user dot name is equal to name. So the name of new user would be the same as passed in or argument over here, if that makes sense. And new user dot score is equal to score, and new user dot function dot increment is equal to function, and this would be new user dot score to be plus plus, and I would return the new user whenever this is called. So I'm now gonna pass in the values to this function. Let's say our user is now called user 4, and I'm gonna, because we are returning the new user, we have to take it in some variable. Okay, so I'm assigning it over here and taking it in user 4. Okay, so user creator, and I will pass in this time will, and this time 8. Okay, so now console.log user 4 dot name. So this is will. So how so you can see how this has made our code much smaller and much efficient and much flexible. We can now just create a user by saying const user 5 is equal to user creator, and this would be like this time Joe, and this time 9 D8. Okay, so we can just say user 5. We don't have to write these lines of code every time. We have make it generic. Okay, so we are doing actually what is, do not repeat yourself. We are following this principle. Okay, so user 5 dot name would be Joe, and user 5 dot score would be 98. Let's do the increment function on user 5 if to check if that working or not. User 5 dot increment, and user 5 dot score would now be 99. Okay, here it is. So user 5 score is now 99. Next video we're going to talk about prototyping. Don't skip any video, because all of these videos are interrelated to each other, and the concepts that I explained over here would be related to next video also.